Hello, welcome to Productions MJC. As we come to the end of June, we haven't heard from the CDC, but I thought I would make this video because some folks have pointed out I'm actually helping anti-vaxxers instead of revealing answers that really haven't been looked at and aren't there. I'm not trying to help anybody except the situation reveal the pieces of the puzzle that nobody talks about, seem to be missing, and let's think about what's going on. It's the end of June, the CDC hasn't released their numbers, so what we have to do is go by May. 971 cases. Now, if you recall, it was 784 a few months ago. As you think on that, it might not be apparent, but that means about 100 cases per month that are new. And commenters have pointed out, hey, you're not even talking about the polio vaccine. You're talking about measles. You're pointing out this and that are bad about the situation, but you haven't talked about the polio vaccine and its effect on the world. All you talk about is measles and how it's opposite of smallpox and such like that. So let's talk about that. Let's look at what's behind the polio vaccine. Let's look at that a little more in depth. And I agree, it is a perfect thing to talk about the next evolution of vaccines, the polio vaccine, because we had the smallpox vaccine, the very first one, 100% effective. So how does that compare to the next generation of vaccines? Well, the polio vaccine is different in several different ways. There are multiple ways it's different. Plus, there are two vaccines. Now, here in the United States, everybody rants and raves about the father of the polio vaccine. And the name associated with the polio vaccine in the United States is Jonas Salk. He is associated with it. Oh, there was even a piece on a radio station bragging about how he is a great socialist because he gave away the vaccine. He didn't try to patent it. And we will tackle that aspect and claim later on. But the other person associated with it is Albert Sabin. Now, why don't we hear about his name? I don't know. I never knew until I started to research this. I didn't know there were two polio vaccines. I only knew about the one, Jonas Salk. Everybody talks about him. As a side note, Albert Sabin did not try to patent his version of the polio vaccine. Jonas Salk has the injectable version, and Albert Sabin was the inventor of the oral. And the World Health Organization, of course, recommends both, and I guess there is argument for that. But however, you'll notice that the word says reduced, have eliminated most. How does that differ from smallpox? Of course, we know that the smallpox vaccine got rid of everything. Now let's look at what these two do and don't do. Let's do a comparison. The major differences are that the Salk injectable version, the people who get it can still make other people sick. They can still be carriers for the disease, whereas, as I understand the explanations here, the oral vaccine, the people are not carriers. They don't make other people sick. They may get sick themselves, but other people don't get sick from them. So when we look at the Salk version, it's more expensive actually by quite a lot than the oral version. That's not counting the fact that it takes a medical professional or somebody trained to give the injection, whereas the oral version is very simple and anybody can do it. That is, almost anybody can administer the oral version of the polio vaccine. Now let's take a look more specifically at the track record. How does the polio vaccine stack up against smallpox vaccine? Well, it's highly effective, the polio vaccine. Here's the way the smallpox vaccine was administered, and it was 100% effective. Think about that. 100% effective with one dose. And these numbers really tell it all, don't they? After you have an interval of some period of time, you don't know if the polio vaccine has retained its immunity and its effectiveness, whereas good old smallpox, 100% effective, lasts until death, and that could be 100 years. The smallpox vaccine keeps going. So we see the smallpox vaccine was much more easy to administer, lasted forever, and was just far more effective in the end because it was 100% right off the bat. One shot, you're done. And it wasn't actually an injection, it was administered by these little monsters. So what's the advantage of these over an injection? Meningitis is an unfortunate side effect that can happen with injections. And that brings us back to the discussion of which was the most effective and best way to administer the medicine. Something that was invented by candlelight. The smallpox vaccine and its delivery method, invented by candlelight before kerosene lamps were invented, is absolutely 100% effective in destroying the disease, whereas the methods and medicines of today in our modern era are 90%, 99%, but we don't know how long it lasts. We won't even touch on other questions about the situation, like, why does that say not for treatment? Why would a drug company make something that isn't going to be used? That's a question for another time, isn't it? And speaking of drug companies, we have a drug company that has made not only the polio vaccine, but they also made the smallpox vaccine. So what did they learn between the two vaccines? Unfortunately for the rest of us, it looks like the lesson that Eli Lilly learned, and also that Jonas Salk learned, is finding a cure is not financially sound. And Jonas Salk decided to become a research scientist, having learned the lesson that finding a cure means bankruptcy, while looking for a cure is perpetual income. Finding a cure guarantees that you are out of a job. And the wives' tale being spread today that these two men donated the polio vaccine to history and science because they were great socialists and great people is a farce. The problem is they couldn't patent it because the research had already been done by a couple of Nobel Prize winners from Harvard a couple of years before, so they couldn't really patent it. We all know the kind of legal battles that would have ensued by trying to patent it when it can be proven that other people had done the work. So where is the real money to be made? Well, take a look at this. 49 doses of 14 vaccines before the age of 6. That's what's recommended. Okay, where's the money to be made? Right there, baby. That's where all the cash is flowing. And what's the most idiotic product to make? Right there, a one-and-done vaccine. And is this disgusting practice limited to the medical community? Oh, no. See, vehicle tires, if made from silicone, would last 3 times as long. So it's stupid for a car manufacturer to recommend or produce or insist upon tires that are made out of silicone. For some people that don't drive their car very much, those tires coming off the assembly line would be the last tires the car ever had. Pushing for that kind of final solution is just not an option. Even though silicone products have been around for 7 decades, we are stuck with the lemon solutions of yesterday and yesteryear. How many of you recall when the speed limit was fixed at 55 miles an hour, there were manufacturers that tried to make tires fall apart quicker because they weren't making as much money. A few of those manufacturers had tire brands and names and such that fell apart and got really famous for producing death traps. Yet nobody bats an eye when a drug manufacturer has an 87 to 88% effective vaccine. Why is that? And what if the vaccine allows other people to be sick but keeps you safe? What's the point? Remember, the CDC is telling the United States and Americans that 971 people have the disease now. A couple months ago it was 784. And remember, 284 of those got the vaccine and got sick anyway, but it was the fault of the 500 that didn't get vaccinated. That is the propaganda around the measles warning that we're being given. It's the 500 that are making us all sick. Oh, really? Let's look at that. Let's scientifically examine the difference between the smallpox vaccine, the polio vaccine, and measles, for instance. Let's look at the timeline and the evolution or de-evolution, as it is the case, of those vaccines. Let's look at the propaganda of the measles warning, and let's take a look and dive deep. And here it is. If you get the measles vaccine, you can still get sick and you can still make other people sick. Bottom line, that's the truth. With the polio vaccine, you don't get sick, but you can still make other people sick. You can still be a carrier. Why? Because it's a killed version they get. With the Jonas Salk injectable, only you are protected, not really other people around you. People can still carry the disease. They don't get sick at all. But restating the smallpox, not only can you not get sick, but you don't make other people sick around you because you're not a carrier. Opposite of that is the measles, where not only can you get sick, but you can make other people sick around you. That's a dirty little secret that they don't tell anybody when they're giving out these vaccinations. So that's an obvious de-evolution. You go from 100%, I don't get sick and I don't make anybody else sick, to the measles where, with smallpox it was one done, nobody got sick. And here we have measles, which is diametrically opposed. Not only can you get sick even if you do get the vaccination, but you can make other people sick as well. We go from this device and this product giving 100% effectiveness, nobody gets sick, you don't get sick, other people don't get sick, and then what do? We flip that to where now we have the measles, and with it, you can still get sick even if you get the vaccination, and you can make other people sick, opposed to the diametrically opposed to the other where nobody gets sick. And of course the anti-vaxxers are stupid because they recognize that fact, that even people that get vaccines are getting sick, which is not the case with the smallpox vaccine. So we've kind of de-evolved. Yes, I have repeated myself many times, because think about it. The only perfect cure was ever made, and it was made by candlelight and whale oil lamp in 1796 by someone before the kerosene lamp was invented. Begin or intensify your own investigation into why this was perfect and nothing else. And what's sad about the whole thing is history seems to verify and show that if the people working on this vaccine, if this gentleman had been working on the polio vaccine as well, then the polio vaccine we have here in this bottle would have been 100% effective at destroying polio from off the face of the earth, just like with smallpox. Research scientists today find there's more money in investigating and searching and looking than in actual finding, whereas this man found a cure. That was his ultimate goal, where Jonas Salk became a research scientist to look for cures, never finding another one. Don't you find that interesting that he never found another cure to any disease? He never found another vaccine from what I've seen. I could be wrong, but the investigation I did didn't lead to finding that he did anything else except look the rest of his life. And the ultimate answer is polio has not been eradicated from the face of the earth. It has from the United States, but it hasn't from the world. The problem is the vaccine is not 100% effective like the smallpox vaccine. There is no perfect cure except smallpox vaccine, and what's even worse is measles. The measles vaccine is absolute garbage. The CDC numbers verify that fact. But to use scare tactics to make you think that the total number of people, 971 to date, roughly 100 per month since last time, are somehow the result of people that don't get vaccinated, when in fact, people that get vaccinated are carriers and they can get sick themselves. The dirty little secret of the measles vaccine is twofold. You are a carrier and you can contract the virulent version of the disease yourself, even if you've been inoculated against it. That never happened with smallpox. So you need to think, you need to slow down, you need to not jump on the anti-vax crowd bandwagon and tout all these studies that can easily be disproven. You need to state real, honest, true, correct facts. Find the answers. Ask the questions. Why can I still get sick even if I've been vaccinated? Why are you blaming people that don't get the vaccinations when the people that do get vaccinations can be carriers? The people that do get vaccinations can get sick, and they can contract and die from measles just like someone who didn't get vaccinated. So what's the advantage? Why are you trying to scare me? What's going on? Look at it through a scientific method. I know it sounds like, hey, this is weird and a big conspiracy, but the problem is that just because you're paranoid there is a conspiracy doesn't mean there isn't one. There could be. You have to look at this from a scientific point of view. You have to look at it cold hard facts, and you have to examine things like this man did. You have to wonder, why is everybody trying to scare us, shame us, or force us into getting vaccinations when even if we have a vaccination, we can still make other people sick. We can still get sick ourselves. Do you call 100 people per month an outbreak? Do you really call it an outbreak or an epidemic or a pandemic? No, because 100 people a month is actually slower, because if it was 784 in 4 months, it's about 200 per month. Now it's 100 per month. It's slowing down. But people are, and that's not because of more and more people are getting vaccinations. It's about flat. It's about the same. We have to look at what is the truth and what isn't the truth. And the problem is, even if we do get these vaccinations, we can still make other people sick and we can get sick ourselves. So what is the answer? Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This has been Productions MJC.